for the cellular signal to pass through. However, the ones on the back are finally going away, which means that the iPhone 7 is going to have a much more uniform design. What do you guys think about this? Do you prefer those antenna bands, or do you think they make the phone look ugly or not? I personally prefer no antenna bands on the back at all. I think it makes the phone look much better. Now the next and the biggest design change is going to be in terms of that headphone jack going away, because yeah, it's going away for good. And this has been a really controversial topic. There are obviously a lot of disadvantages to not having that headphone jack, but also some advantages to not having that headphone jack and using a lightning connector instead of that headphone jack. So long story short, you can have a DAC and an app included, so you can actually get much better sound quality from your headphones with using a lightning connector than with just using that 3.5mm headphone jack. I'll have a more detailed video on how those lightning headphones work and all the advantages, all the benefits you can get by using lightning headphones. But yeah, if you want to use your own headphones, unfortunately with the iPhone 7, you would need an adapter. Now some rumors have pointed towards Apple including that adapter in the box instead of lightning headphones. However, we've had recent leaks for both lightning headphones and the actual adapter. So my guess is that Apple will include both inside the box. And this is a really interesting topic because even with the iPhone 7, with an adapter, you would still be able to use your own headphones and you will actually get much better sound quality from your old headphones than you would get with the iPhone 6s. But obviously on the iPhone 6s, you don't need to carry that adapter with you at all times. So let me know in the comments which one do you think is a much better option for you. Better sound quality or not having to carry that adapter with you at all times. Also, one thing to point out with the iPhone 7, you won't be able to listen to music and charge your phone at the same time. That's unless you use Bluetooth headphones. So yeah, overall, in terms of the headphone jack, the iPhone 6s is a much better option. The next design difference is that secondary speaker that we get with the iPhone 7. So thanks to this extra gain space by removing the headphone jack, Apple will add a secondary speaker to the iPhone. Now unfortunately, even this extra speaker is still a pretty small change, so don't expect any HTC One M8 or M9 sound quality. But hey, if you are the kind of person who prefers listening to music using those built-in speakers, then the iPhone 7 is actually going to be a much better choice than the iPhone 6s. The next design change is the camera module, which I'll be covering in more detail once we get to the camera section of this video. But yeah, if you take a look at the back of the iPhone 7, well, the camera bump is still there. However, it's much larger than the one on the iPhone 6s and then the iPhone 7 Plus or the iPhone 7 Pro. This one comes with an even larger camera module, a dual camera module. But yeah, more about the camera once I get to the camera section of this video, but this is going to be another design difference that I really wanted to mention. Other than that, we don't have any design differences. The iPhone 7 Plus or the iPhone 7 Pro, the larger model, this one actually gets a smart connector on the back, the same one as we get with the iPad Pros, although I'm not exactly sure what that smart connector on the iPhone 7 Pro or Plus would be used for. We're definitely going to have some smart accessories, maybe even some smart battery cases. But yeah, the smart connector is only on the 5.5-inch model, not on the iPhone 7. And finally, the last design change between the iPhone 7 and the iPhone 6s is in terms of the color options. So there have been some rumors that pointed towards the darkest space gray on the iPhone 7, a space gray that matches the one on the Apple Watch and the 12-inch MacBook. Because yeah, the space gray on the iPhone 6 and 6s, it's actually much lighter than the one on the Apple Watch and the 12-inch MacBook. However, all the casing leaks show the exact same color options as on the iPhone 6s. Now, I still believe that Apple will introduce that darker space gray option on the iPhone 7, so then we'll have a darker space gray, silver, gold, and rose gold. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, the design section was really long, so let's move on to the second section of this video, the display. So in terms of the display technology, Apple is still going to use LCD. Apple will only switch to OLED in 2017 with the next iPhone, the iPhone 8. And by the way, I actually did a video on the iPhone 8 as well, so if you're curious about the iPhone 8, here's everything we currently know, because we actually know quite a lot of stuff so far. But yeah, still LCD on the iPhone 7. Now one change is going to be a DCI P3 display. So same as on the 5K Retina iMac and the iPad Pros, we're going to get a much better color gamut, slightly deeper blacks, better contrast, and overall much better color reproduction. Now in terms of the display size, unfortunately it's going to stay the same. So 4.7 inches for the iPhone 7 and then 5.5 inches for the iPhone 7 Plus or the iPhone 7 Pro. And we are still going to get those large top and bottom bezels, unfortunately. They're only set to be thinned out with the next generation iPhones, which is coming in 2017, but for the iPhone 7 we're going to get the exact same bezel sizes. Next up, in terms of the display resolution on the iPhone 7, on the 4.7 inch model we're going to get 1334 by 750, 1334 by 750, I have no idea how hard it is for me to pronounce that. And yeah, that basically translates to 326 ppi on the iPhone 7, which is basically the standard Retina display for Apple, and then on the iPhone 7 Plus we have a 1080p display, which translates to a 401 ppi. So basically the exact same resolution as on the iPhone 6 and 6S. Unfortunately, no improvements here at all. So just a single display improvement so far, but what about any special display features? Well, one of them is most likely going to be the True Tone display that we get with the iPad Pro, the 9.7-inch iPad Pro. And this automatically adjusts the temperature of the display based on the lighting conditions, so think about having a smarter version of night shift all the time. And there have also been reports of Apple including Gorilla Glass 5 in the iPhone 7. In case you don't know, Gorilla Glass 5 has finally been launched. It's currently being used in the Note 7 only, but it can withstand drops of up to 1.6 meters on concrete. That's just insane. But no, I don't see Apple including a Gorilla Glass 5 in the iPhone 7. So yeah, same Ion X strengthened glass as we have on the iPhone 6S. Finally, moving on to section number 3, the camera. This is the section in which we'll finally get some updates. So in terms of the sensor resolution, it's still going to be a 12 megapixel sensor. Basically the same as we had with the iPhone 6S and the iPhone 6S Plus. As for the actual sensor size, you probably know that the bigger the sensor, the more light can get to the camera. On the iPhone 6S, we have a 1/3-inch sensor size, which is pretty small, and a pixel size of 1.22 microns. And this is probably the only iPhone 7 detail that we still don't know, the actual sensor size. Now, every single one of those leaked parts and casings, all of them show a much larger lens opening on the iPhone 7, and this basically means two things. The first one is that the sensor size is actually going to be bigger than on the iPhone 6S, and then the second one is the aperture. The aperture is also going to be bigger than on the iPhone 6S. So on the iPhone 6S, we got an f2.2 aperture, and on the iPhone 7, we're expecting about an f1.7 to f1.9 aperture. So just to give you an idea, this is an iPhone 6S camera versus a Samsung Galaxy S7. The S7 comes with f1.7, so it's f1.7 versus f2.2, and you can probably tell which phone performs better. And yeah, the iPhone 7 will be really similar to the Samsung Galaxy S7 when it comes to low light. Now the 5.5-inch model, the iPhone 7 Plus or the iPhone 7 Pro, this one is going to get a dual camera module. And this one is actually going to be insane in low light. Basically, Lynx Technology, the company that developed that dual camera module for the iPhone 7 Plus or the iPhone 7 Pro, depending on its name. Lynx Technology, they also have a patent on how to improve noise reduction using two cameras. So both cameras take shots at different ISO levels, and then the phone combines those shots and you get this image. And then also using that dual camera module, you can also zoom in without losing that much quality. So it's basically like having optical zoom on a phone, because you basically have two lenses. One of them is a telephoto lens, so zoomed out shot, and the other one is a macro lens, so a zoomed in shot. I actually covered that dual camera module in much more detail in this video and in my iPhone 7 Final Looks and Rumor series, because yeah, it can even do depth tracking and 3D mapping with that camera, so it's pretty cool. Now in terms of the optical image stabilization or OIS, until now we only have it on the Plus model, so the iPhone 6 Plus and the iPhone 6s Plus. Now with the iPhone 7, there are many reports suggesting that we'll be getting it with the regular model, the 4.7-inch model as well. Really hope that this is true. Both phones support 4K video recording, and the iPhone 6s actually has the highest bitrate on the market right now for a smartphone. It's currently capped at about 80 megabits per second, and with the iPhone 7, we're actually expecting to see about 100 or 120. So a slight bitrate increase with the iPhone 7 when recording 4K videos. Other than that, slow motion is going to be the same, so 720p at 240 frames per second and 1080p at 120. True Tone flash on both models, and other than that, no big back-facing camera changes. Now, what about a front-facing camera? So with the front-facing camera, we're actually expecting to see a lot of changes. So on the iPhone 6 and 6s Plus, we have a 5 megapixel front-facing camera. However, it's actually limited to 720p video. Seriously, Tim. But yeah, with the iPhone 7, we're expecting this to be bumped to 1080p finally. Keep in mind that the S7 and the S7 Edge can shoot in 1440p, so even 1080p would be behind these. Now the iPhone 6s's camera is pretty bad in low light. It comes with an f2.2 aperture, and yeah, this is how the low light shots look when compared to the Samsung Galaxy S7 Edge, which comes with an f1.7 aperture, and yeah, also a much wider lens. So yeah, finally 1080p video on the iPhone 7's front-facing camera, and also a much larger aperture. Most likely f1.7 or f1.9 to match the one on the back-facing camera. Now there are some sources suggesting an 8 megapixel front-facing camera on the iPhone 7, but I don't think this is coming. 5 megapixels is most likely going to stay. And for those of you wondering what would it take to shoot 4K video with a front-facing camera, well, 4K is actually 8.3 megapixels in size, so not even an 8 megapixel front-facing camera would be enough. Other than that, Retina Flash, HDR, Panorama, everything is here to stay. But overall, the iPhone 7 is indeed getting some pretty big camera updates, so if you care about a camera, definitely get the iPhone 7. Next up, second number 4, we have the specs. So with the iPhone 6s, we have an Apple A9 chip, which is actually a dual-core 1.84 GHz processor. That seems really bad, but in fact it's really powerful. the performance of the A9 chip is actually amazing. It's still the king when it comes to single core scores. This thing is a beast of a processor. I actually did an in-depth performance test of the A9 chip, and it was so powerful that it actually outperformed an Intel Core M chip, even a Core i5 when it comes to 4K video export times, and it was really close to a quad-core 3.2 GHz Haswell i7 chip. Yeah, really impressive performance. Other than that, on the iPhone 6s we get 6-core PowerVR graphics and 2GB of RAM. Now with the iPhone 7 we're expecting the Apple A10 processor, and we're also expecting the Apple A10 chip to be a 6-core processor, and that would be just insane. A lot of demanding apps will start using multi-threading, so we would actually get better performance in apps such as GarageBand for example, in which you do have to optimize complex projects before you can play them in real time, so this might actually be a thing of the past with the iPhone 7. Also, the Apple A10 chip is going to be based on a 10nm processor, which basically means a smaller die size, so lower power consumption and also much better performance overall. Now there have been some supposed Apple A10 Geekbench leaks, and apparently the Apple A10 seems to match the Apple A9X processor as the one that's inside the iPad Pros, and I also did a video on the performance of the A9X chip, which was just a few seconds behind my quad-core i7 chip when it comes to 4K video export times. So imagine the power of the A9X chip in your pocket. Really impressive. The Apple A9 chip was produced by both Samsung and TSMC, but the version produced by TSMC turned out to actually have better battery life than the one produced by Samsung. And the Apple A10 is only going to be manufactured by TSMC. Okay, so now we know pretty much everything in terms of the processor, but what about the RAM? So 2GB on the iPhone 6s and 6s Plus, and on the iPhone 7, we're still expecting to see 2GB as well. You might just get 3GB on the larger 5.5-inch model, so the iPhone 7 Plus or the iPhone 7 Pro, that one might just come with 3GB of RAM. The RAM management in iOS is actually really good. A while ago I compared multiple smartphones with different amounts of RAM, and the 2GB of RAM in the iPhone 6s turned out to be way more efficient than 4GB in the OnePlus 2. So performance-wise, the iPhone 7 is indeed superior, but the question is, did you ever think that the iPhone 6s was slow? And in the end, unless you're using really demanding apps such as GarageBand or iMovie, then you won't probably notice the difference when, going through your Facebook feed. Next up, number 5, we have special features. Now when compared to the iPhone 6, the iPhone 6s didn't actually come with that many special features. It did come with 3D Touch, which was one of them. It also came with that improved 7000 series aluminum, and it also came with that Retina flash, but this was pretty much it. Now for the iPhone 7, Apple has actually patented a Force Touch home button, so a home button that would work just like on the 12-inch MacBook or the new MacBook Pros. And this is apparently coming with the iPhone 7, a Force Touch home button, so this is going to be the first special feature of the iPhone 7. And a Force Touch home button actually has quite a lot of uses. One of them would be a joystick for games, which Apple is actually testing, so this actually might end up on the iPhone 7, and that would be pretty cool. Number 2, we have water resistancy. So the iPhone 6s was actually way more water resistant than the iPhone 6. It actually had rubber seals on the inside of the ports, and the iPhone 7 is definitely going to be waterproof this time. It's most likely going to be IP68 certified, and this means submersion in water of up to 1.5 meters up to 30 minutes. Basically like the Samsung Galaxy S7 and the S7 Edge and many other smartphones right now that are water resistant, not waterproof. Also, the iPhone 7 might also come with a nano coating of the circuit board. So this is something that the S7 and the S7 Edge don't come with. So basically, if the rubber seals on the inside of the phone get damaged and water gets inside the phone, it won't actually damage the phone because the circuit board will also have a nano coating. There are a lot of companies out there that currently do this for your smartphone, so you can send them your phone and they will nano coat it. But apparently this will be included with the iPhone 7. Pretty cool. Dual speakers, again, this is something I talked about before. This is another special feature that's going to be unique to the iPhone 7. Other than that, quick charging is most likely coming. So currently we don't have quick charging on the iPhone 6 and 6s. This is not necessarily bad on the iPhone 6s because it has a pretty small battery, but on the iPhone 6s Plus it takes more than 3 hours to fully charge, which is pretty long. So quick charging is finally coming with the iPhone 7. However, in terms of wireless charging, I'm not 100% sure. The iPhone 7 Pro does come with that smart connector, so that could be used for really fast wireless charging, and multiple accessories and a case, but I don't see the 4.7-inch iPhone 7 featuring that just yet. Other than that, dual SIM and Apple SIM support. So there have been a couple of leaks showing this dual SIM tray, which is supposedly made for an iPhone 7, and this will be really useful when traveling. And also Apple SIM might also make an appearance on the iPhone 7. This is currently only used in the Serato version of the iPads. The Apple SIM is basically a SIM in which you can choose your own data plans at any time. You can switch between carriers at any time you want. Again, really useful for traveling. And finally, you can also name those Lightning headphones as a special feature for the iPhone 7. So better sound quality from the iPhone 7 only by using Lightning headphones. Next up, number 6, we have the battery life. So with the iPhone 7, we are going to get a slightly larger battery than on the iPhone 6s. So with the iPhone 6s, we get a 750 mAh battery, and with the iPhone 7, we're expecting to get a 1960 mAh. Now, even though this doesn't seem like a big change, Well, also keep in mind that the Apple A10 chip is also based on a smaller process, so it's more power efficient, and overall you will be getting a much better battery life on the iPhone 7 than on the iPhone 6s. Next up, let's talk about the capacity and the models. So with the iPhone 6s and 6s Plus, the baseline model starts at 16 gigabytes, and 16 gigabytes in 2016 is a joke. Especially because with the iPhone 6s you can now record 4K videos, and in case you're curious, I actually did a video on how much 4K videos you can record on a 16 gigabytes iPhone, and if a 16 gigabytes iPhone is actually usable without disabling any features. And yeah, with the iPhone 7 we're expecting to get finally 32 gigabytes on a baseline model. And even 32 gigabytes, to be honest, is not enough, but hey, at least we get a bump. So with the iPhone 7 we're expecting to get 32, 64 and 128 gigabytes of storage, and with the iPhone 7 Plus or the iPhone 7 Pro, basically the 5.5 inch model, we're going to get 32, 128 and a special 256 gigabyte option as well. Now the main differences between the iPhone 6s and the iPhone 6s Plus were the fact that obviously the iPhone 6s Plus was much larger, it also had a much larger battery, it also had a 1080p display, so a much higher resolution display than the iPhone 6s, and it also had optical image stabilization on the camera. Now with the 5.5 inch iPhone 7, which is most likely going to be called the iPhone 7 Plus, we're going to get a dual camera module, a smart connector as well, apart from the already much better display and the larger battery. So if you think about it, now you have even more reasons to get the iPhone 7 Plus versus the iPhone 7, which kind of sucks, to be honest. I personally do prefer the smaller 4.7 inch model, especially because, you know, the iPhones, they already have some pretty large bezels, and it kind of sucks that if you want to get the best performance, the best camera, the best display, you have to go with the larger 5.5 inch model. And finally, section number 8, we have the price. So in terms of the prices, these are the prices for the iPhone 7, and these were the prices for the iPhone 6s. The iPhone 6s is actually going to be cheaper now by about $100. On the iPhone 7, you do get 32 gigabytes of baseline storage rather than 16 gigabytes, but keep in mind that you are paying $100 more, so basically, if you just pay $100 more for an iPhone 6s, you can get a 64 gigabyte iPhone 6s for the price of a 32 gigabyte iPhone 7. So this is what I would personally advise you to do. Don't upgrade to the iPhone 7 just because there aren't enough changes, to be honest, rather than the camera, to upgrade to the iPhone 7. The next iPhone, the iPhone 8, on which I actually did a video on all the leaks and rumors we currently know, the iPhone 8 2017 iPhone is going to be a pretty huge change. And to be honest, if you're thinking of getting an iPhone right now, the best option is to actually get the iPhone SE. The iPhone SE, even though smaller, it has the exact same performance as the iPhone 6s and the exact same back-facing camera as the iPhone 6s. Yeah, the front-facing camera is pretty bad and the display is still a 2010 tech, so it's pretty old, but hey, if you want to get an iPhone right now, this is going to be the best option because the iPhone SE, it's pretty cheap right now, and it's actually going to be even cheaper in September once the iPhone 7 launches. And finally, the conclusion. So what are reasons to get the iPhone 7 and what are the reasons not to get the iPhone 7? First off, reasons to get the iPhone 7. One, you get better cameras, especially in low light for both the iPhone 7 and the iPhone 7 Plus. We'll probably also get a wider angle on the front-facing camera, so that's another reason. You're also going to get a performance boost, but the question is, do you actually need a performance boost over the iPhone 6s? And then it's also going to be waterproof, IP68. But then the question is, do you actually need a phone that's IP68 certified? When was the last time you went swimming with your phone? That should probably answer your question. The Force Touch home button is going to be pretty cool, and it will bring some extra features with it, so that's another reason to get the iPhone 7 over the 6s. Other than that, dual stereo speakers, a true tone display, 32 gigabytes is the baseline model, which is a pretty big change. Another plus is that every single one of your accessories, all cases and accessories apart from headphones, everything will still work on the iPhone 7. So no need to buy new cases, adapters, or docks. If you care about battery life, the iPhone 7 will also come with better battery life. And finally, on the iPhone 7, you will also get at least one extra year of extra updates with the Apple A10 chip. Now, in terms of the reasons not to get the iPhone 7, well, it has the exact same design as the iPhone 6s, which had the exact same design as the iPhone 6. So yeah, it's a pretty boring design. It's a pretty old design. So that's actually the main reason not to get the iPhone 7. However, if you do like this design, then why not? I personally kind of got bored of it, to be honest. Then the iPhone 6s is already really powerful. The Apple A9 chip is more powerful than the 12-inch MacBook's Core M processor. So do you actually need a faster chip than that? Do you need more performance? Probably not. It's also more expensive than the iPhone 6s, so you're actually paying extra for all these extra features. And finally, the headphone jack is going to be a huge turn off for a lot of users. Yes, you do get an adapter, but you do need that adapter with you at all times when you want to listen to music. And again, besides, you cannot even listen to music while charging your smartphone, so yeah. But yeah, do have a look at all the reasons. Let me know in the comment section down below which was your decision, which phone